Table or truth?
Well, I have a few on the arsenal for this week.
Okay.
The times just keep going. The world keeps turning. The insanity keeps brewing, and the rowers keep on rowing. So I don't even. I mean, I say this every week almost. It's like my catchphrase. I don't even know where to start because it's just crazy times. The big highlights that came to me for this week's episode of Table for Truth. For those listening and still enjoying the irregular scheduling for our nice podcasts, which will, again, I'm not doing a video today, but podcast today. I can skip that part, whatever.
You can leave it in, fine.
I can leave it in. All right, this is Claude.
The question is, why are you yelling?
Oh, because, I'm animated.
Okay, you can be animated. You can yell if you want.
This is Claude Xavier Rhodes Polanco, and here's Tyson once again to both of us grace you with a few weekly mints of current events. So, yeah, the big one in my mind was the treatment that the Western media was pushing against Tucker Carlson for simply just going to the former Soviet Union, now known as Russia, and talking to the big cheese himself, Vladimir Putin of Russia. So I don't see what the issue is in the sense that there is no reason why journalism shouldn't be allowed to go in another country and ask legitimate questions.
So what are you saying that, according to you, the mainstream media was crying about? Because
they were crying about...
I didn't...
You didn't hear any about that?
No,
they were basically calling him like guilty of treason and just, and I'm just like,
really? What source said that he was guilty of treason?
Well, not like guilty, but like morally guilty of treason. I hope
morally guilty. What?
Okay, we're getting to that.
Okay,
let's see. According to The Hill, Boris Johnson calls Tucker Carlson a traitor. Okay, now granted, Boris Johnson is not the mainstream U.S. media.
Yeah.
The mainstream media, okay, this was 5 days ago, hates Tucker Carlson. This is from Newsweek.
So Newsweek, whose mainstream media is saying what other mainstream media...
An op-ed piece, yeah, apparently.
Oh, it's op-ed. Well, then that's not the news media saying that. This is some editor, jackass, saying...
But since almost everything about the mainstream media now is op-ed disguised as journalism, then, I mean, for the most part... You're right. I think you just hit the nail on the head. Most of this media is just op-ed. It's not real news in the sense of pure, sanctioned, Tyson-approved, grade A news, right? No bias, opinions, nothing like that. I'm 100% in agreement with you there. Look, never Trump's standard bearer Bill Kristol wrote on X, perhaps we need a total and complete shutdown of Tucker Carlson re-entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what's going on.
So
why? Why would he say that?
Bill Kristol is not ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, is not AP, is not MSNBC, is not CNN.
He ran the Weekly Standard, did he not?
He ran is past tense,
right.
Is it not? So he's not... So you just said the mainstream media said Tucker Carlson.
Okay, let's keep going here. News of the Moscow trip once again entangled the name Tucker Carlson with traitor and Putin puppet across the mainstream blabosphere. A recurring theme for Carlson, CNN said. Russian state media was breathlessly celebrating his visit, and that the interview gives Putin a chance to sit down with a big supporter, adding that in Russia, Carlson's a big hero. That's CNN. Now, you're right. CNN isn't real news, but it's still considered mainstream media. So just a little heads up there. Like that's a little off.
What did CNN supposedly say?
Well, collectively, the overall theme here is that Tucker Carlson, all right, let me say it again, is considered a Putin puppet, all right? And
CNN did not say that.
See, it says, okay, let's click on here. Man, if you really want to go there. Transcripts, Aaron Burnett out front, CNN host. Okay, this was at 1900 hours, aired February 5th, 2024. All right? Zelensky's massive military shakeup at a time when U.S. aid to Ukraine has been declared, quote, dead on arrival. And Putin welcomes Tucker Carlson in Moscow with open arms. Unidentified male through translator. Independent journalist Tucker Carlson, who is flown to Russia from the U.S. via Turkey, is seen, went for a ride around town, rode the subway, no big deal. They're just telling him, like, he's doing a little sightseeing. He charged his phone. This isn't real news. Why is this on CNN? Although they're knowing the details about the fact that it was during the USB port, they may give reason to think twice about all this. But look at them talking about him like a celebrity. Everything he does on camera, breathlessly repeated. Now it's unclear if an interview between Putin and Carlson will take place. Okay, I guess this was before he even went in there. But look how preemptive this is. Okay, it's just like demonizing him. Making him look like a puppet for Putin. They don't even know what he's about to tell him. They don't even know what Tucker Carlson is about to say to Vladimir Putin. It may be worth asking yourself, according to the TV host, since it's getting very serious, what is this really about? Tucker Carlson is asking the actual viewership of his show. Ask yourself, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Does he eat dogs?
That's old news. He said that on his show when he
about 6 months ago. I get that.
Okay. But see, I didn't hear anything about mainstream media calling him treasonous. No, the deal is that Tucker Carlson got a 2-hour interview with Vladimir Putin.
Right. I think
there is not one media person who would not jump at the opportunity.
I think they're butthurt.
Now look at the history though. Because of some of Tucker Carlson's take when he had a show on Fox News, it was not unusual for Russia to replay those snippets because they were pro-Putin.
Well, they're also, one could look at it as rather than just go to the extreme of assuming the worst of the worst upon even your enemy, at least try to bridge a little bit of a diplomatic gap. Well, why is diplomacy only useful if so-called diplomats go across the ocean and try to negotiate?
Tucker Carlson is no diplomat.
Everybody can be a diplomat. I'm not saying a supporter or a sympathizer. He's got on record saying I don't agree with everything Putin's doing or anything. Okay, that's actually most people. They're just I don't agree with the invasion of Ukraine just as a point blank. If people are intellectually honest about it, and we've talked about this many times, Putin had, if somebody was Vladimir Putin, or in Russia's state, when Russia had made warnings about NATO kind of egging Ukraine to, believe in itself that it could become a member of NATO, and therefore, kind of sort of one-up Russia by suggesting maybe more military presence along the borders around Russia by the European Union, United States, whoever. These are concerns that were just ignored. Putin himself, you saw the interview, right?
I did not see the interview.
Okay, because Putin himself had made the claim that, at the end of the day, Russia had put down an actual negotiation towards the beginning of the actual campaign against Ukraine. And then it was kind of poo-pooed by...
negotiation for what?
Well, let's look this up.
Okay. You're saying before they invaded a sovereign country, they put out what?
No, while they had started to invade the sovereign country, they were willing to put a ceasefire.
After they jumped in, killed Ukrainians, then they want to negotiate?
Well, let's look what the ceasefire was about, just so we can kind of,
Ceasefire is easy. You know why? It wasn't Ukrainians that were lobbing missiles into Russia. A ceasefire is easy. Russia, stop firing missiles into Ukraine. They could do that. They don't need permission. They can just stop doing it.
All right, Putin sent out feelers for a ceasefire deal a year earlier in the fall of 2022, according to U.S. officials. This came after Ukraine routed Russia's army in the country's northeast, supposedly. Putin indicated that he was satisfied with Russia's captured territory and was ready for an armistice. Putin's repeated interest in a ceasefire is an example of how opportunism and improvisation, I don't know if I can't say that, have defined his approach to the war behind closed doors. That doesn't sound any different than any other country
really?
doing the same thing.
Here it goes. I take over. I come to the United States. I take over Arizona, New Mexico, and California, and then tell the United States, I'm ready for a ceasefire. I'll just keep this territory, and we're good. Are you kidding me? Why would Ukraine accept that?
Yeah. Because they've unfortunately lost a lot of manpower and resources by not.
So they
Wasn't Ukraine actually open to the idea, but then they were kind of egged on not to accept those conditions?
no,
That's not what happened.
that's not what happened.
Please,
What? You
rotate the actual situation.
what Ukraine says is simple: get out of Ukraine, and we can talk. You can, Russia can do that. Putin can do that tomorrow.
Okay, so it was all Ukraine and Europe had nothing to do with that.
No, all Europe and the United States have been doing is supporting Ukraine. That's
Okay.
it.
Well then, why now do we seem to have a sector of our population that is in the government that seems completely to look the other way when it comes to the potential dangers of escalating stuff into a world war, and then most people on Earth, including Russian citizens, Chinese citizens, I might add, the U.S., most U.S. citizens, and pretty much the rest of the world has no desire to get into a world war. So they're just kind of like, well, if there could be any kind of talks where people can see the other side of the coin and maybe see where they're coming from, not to say they may agree with it politically or even morally, it all depends on what's being presented, but at least like having some sort of talk and negotiation. This was kind of the reason why people were sort of annoyed at the fact that the quote-unquote mainstream media seemed to lambast Tucker Carlson's visit to the motherland of Russia. Now, I think as an undertone, there was a lot of jealousy there, from I guess news pundits that wish they could have done the same thing, but then they should just admit that. But the stigma, the insinuation here by the media seems to be more to even deal with trying to talk to Putin or negotiate with Russia. That's just a sign of treason. That's kind of like the feel. Can you clarify that for us? Because that's just sort of like the
no
theme.
mainstream media accused Tucker Carlson of treason.
So they encourage the idea though of him going over there and asking questions.
Encourage the idea?
Yeah.
That doesn't
So nobody
compute.
Well, that's right. 'Cause you're a Democrat.
No, it's not that that doesn't compute. No one encouraged him to go over there. Why would anyone encourage Tucker Carlson, who's got a
somebody to
Please.
go over there and just have a talk with Putin himself?
You don't think
Kind of.
other news agencies have asked for interviews with Vladimir
But
Putin?
at least they're getting one now.
At least
And the questions he asked were not necessarily terrible questions. He had asked him flat out. Let me go into, just so we're not wasting our time here. Let me go into the actual questions here. Okay. One of the things Tucker Carlson said was are you going to stop really with Ukraine? Like why would who's to say you wouldn't keep going? And Putin was like, we don't have any reason to actually instigate this anymore or insinuate a world war. I think that's actually a pretty fair point just to remind the rest of the world, because if nobody knows what's going on in his head. Now, the question is, can we believe him? I don't think logistically he has any reason to instigate what could be a terrible nuclear war upon the world just to invade Poland or something like that. It doesn't add up. I've said that from the start. Like I don't see why everybody is insinuating that he's going to try to take over like most of Europe, in a crazy military campaign.
But let's say that he's just going to stop at Ukraine and not go after some of the smaller Baltic countries, which I find that hard to believe if he didn't take over Ukraine. But let's say he does that. Is that okay? Is that okay for him to just invade?
No, it's not okay. Nobody agrees that it's okay, but at the same time, it's a tricky game of politics.
So let it happen. So then, what's going to stop? All right, let's say the United States says, "Sorry, Europe, we're not going to give," and so we have Europe saying, "Okay, you're fine. We'll just look after ourselves." they take over Ukraine, right? Well, then what happens when Xi in China says, oh, okay, we're good to go then, and takes over Taiwan?
I get the concern.
Right? But that's okay. They're in, remember, it's a one state.
Well, you feel very strongly about this.
With China. Why not let China take back Taiwan?
I think the best solution to solve this dilemma across the world on any situation seems to be the most obvious one in terms of calling out the people's true colors. I mean, if you really feel strongly that it's a moral, well, it's a miscarriage of justice, if you will, that Ukraine got invaded, and I don't disagree that it's unfortunate it happened. I agree. It's even more unfortunate that so many people have died overall just because of this. It could have been an avoided tragedy. All right. It wasn't. We tried to go over the idea that it wasn't totally instigated just by Russia when Europe seemed to kind of sort of mess with the diplomatic, amenities of Russia and bring the concern that there could be bases by the border. That's the one that no one can make concessions for on that's pro let's fund and join Ukraine's defense.
That's ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous.
It is ridiculous
because
Ukraine was its own country. They were not part of NATO.
They were not. We never said they were, but
there was no bases, European bases going. There were no U.S. bases going in Ukraine.
No, there was never one that fully were established, but there was the concern.
A concern?
Concern that if Ukraine became more of an independent country, that eventually, I guess, was invited to join the European Union.
Let's say that Putin's whole thing is he didn't want NATO on his doorstep.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, because of his actions, guess what? 2 more countries joined NATO, and one has an 800-mile border with Russia.
Oops. There you go. Not the best. Okay. Not the best.
So
strategy.
It's okay if I have a concern that one day Ukraine, who is an independent country, decides that they want to join them. That's like we say that. Let's say Ukraine went the other way. Said, Russia, we kind of like you. We want to make Ukraine part of the Russian Federation. So we just want to become Russia. Would the United States and Europe have a problem with that? Would we invade Ukraine?
We all understand that it's not like oh, you get away with this. Totally look the other way. I mean, this is a bad mark on on Russia's view on the world stage. Okay, the real issue here is if people feel so justified to want to defend Ukraine, if I may be so bold, when are you signing up for the Air Force?
I did sign up for the Air Force.
Recently,
I did my time. I'm a veteran.
No, God bless you, man. What I'm saying is can you go back into career mode for the Air Force? And join the ranks of trying to fight the evil forces of Russia in Ukraine? I mean, everybody that feels this way, are they signing up for the military to join as a independent mercenary army to go down to Ukraine and fight the good fight? That's a fair question.
That's not a fair question.
Why?
That's ridiculous. Ukrainians are fighting for their homeland.
Yes.
All the Ukrainians are asking is for assistance. The United States and Europe are providing that assistance.
Yes.
That's all Ukraine.
In an ideal world, we'd have a surplus
Ukraine
of
has
that
not
money.
asked for U.S. military soldiers to be there. Ukraine has not asked for Europeans to come across with armies to assist them.
You bring up a good point, but then if they're running out of soldiers, what are they going to do next? It seems like their ability to fight Russia is slowly losing its grip. If not slowly, then faster than that. And nobody's rejoicing in that. But then what is the point of actually even, when do you finally just say uncle, unfortunately?
Uncle?
Yeah.
What, I don't know how you morph from an invader coming and invading
they
a
invaded
country. And my question, what, we should do nothing?
There's logistically, their chances of actually being able to win this war as it stands are not that good. Maybe, unfortunately...
According to who?
according to logistics, they're down to very few young men between 20 and 45. They're now assigning older men to join the ranks in the actual lines. Who knows how many have emigrated out of Ukraine? And I don't have the statistics in front of me of the amount of people that have died.
You know how many Russian soldiers?
A lot, but Russia's huge.
Yeah.
So
you know how
more
many
young
young Russian men left
the
the country
Yeah,
instead of being,
last I checked,
being
a year
scooped
ago,
up in the army?
300,000, yes.
Which again, Russia has done a draft. People in Ukraine have volunteered to join the army to fight Russia.
That's very
right?
noble, but now logistically, okay, they're short on actual soldiers and warriors.
So what? All right, what's your
we keep
solution
feeding
next?
them money, and then eventually, what? Just to prove a point? How are they going to be able to win this war? That's a fair question.
Continued support from us.
But they don't have enough men to actually fight in the battlefield. So how are they going to win this war?
How do you know that? I haven't
A whole
heard
generation of men have been like reduced in Ukraine because of this war with Russia. Am I making that up? Are they all still alive right now and just taking time off? I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this, but the ugly reality is that not just Ukrainians, but Russians too. Thousands of people, well, men and women, are dying.
Yes.
And so we just keep throwing in more money. What do you think the outcome is going to be?
So what should we do, X?
Well,
what should we do? Just stop. Let Russia take over Ukraine.
Take over Ukraine, have a reasonable armistice that seems fair, and just hear it out. I don't know.
Why have it reasonable? Russia can just take it.
Well, if he wants to enslave everybody in Ukraine, I don't think that'll hold well in the world stage at all, or Ukraine. So
why should he care about the world stage? He went into Crimea without caring about the world stage.
So assuming he's really that reckless.
We've seen it. Look. Before Russia invaded Ukraine, guess what? They were playing on the world stage. They were part of the G8.
Yeah, why would they? Yeah, but
right?
Now they're not, and they're they're creating a secondary current, worldwide currency, like on a financial scale.
The ruble?
Not the ruble, man.
Talk to me about the ruble. Talk to me about the sanctions that are hitting Russia hard. Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to say Breitbart. That's not the right answer.
Oh, God. Yeah, that is the right answer.
No, that's not the right answer.
Yeah, bring up Breitbart.
No, what I was going to say is BRICS. That's what it is, BRICS. Okay? There is an alternative secondary economy brewing. Now, it's not to say it's going to be successful to the way they're envisioning it, but it is possible there will be two world-style currencies that are going to be used. I don't think the dollar is going to completely die off. I don't think the concern should be.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, just think the fact that it's not going to happen, as far as I can tell, just logistically. Like the dollar is still strong enough to kind of have its own influence, at least a huge part of the world.
The dollar is the gold standard and shall remain so for your lifetime.
That, on a selfish note, as an American citizen, sounds pretty favorable, but at the end of the day, there is alternative currencies that seem to be sprouting up due to very poor economic policies here in the West as well.
Whoa. They're sprouting up in China, Russia, and India because of the U.S.?
No, because of the Western banking policies that they've been throwing out.
Oh, my God.
Wait, am I crazy here?
Yes.
How so?
Because you're listening to these conspiracists, and every 6 months they come out with something. Remember, you were telling us that, what was it? It was something ridiculous.
Well, you mean COVID was going to happen?
What?
That COVID was, going to happen, and nobody listened about that, when it actually struck stateside?
Please.
Well, I recall that, before COVID happened, I warned people about COVID. People like me, crazy people like me, said, "Hey, there's an outbreak going on, on the east side of the world, and it's not looking good. We may want to be concerned about this." And very few people seem to take heed until it hit stateside, and then everybody was like, "Oh crap, this is the real deal."
I was aware of it.
Okay, well, good for you.
The world.
Most of the world that I know
aware of it, and
they didn't take precaution. No, they didn't seem concerned until it hit home on their doorstep. Okay, that's the thing. We go over this every week, man. the crazy conspiracy theorist X myself, right?
What, that there was a pandemic brewing out of China?
There was a pandemic brewing out of
there
China.
was no conspiracy reference.
That it was
the only
manufactured most likely in a lab. That the vaccine didn't work the way it could have. You know, all that good stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Get back to
Let's get back to the whole thing about
this fantasy
so
financial system.
The financial system is something that should concern the West because the buying power of the dollar will weaken even more if some alternative world currency comes up. Isn't that one of Trump's actual campaign warnings? Switch to gold because the U.S. dollar may be in danger of collapsing.
I've heard a lot of stuff. I haven't heard that one yet.
Okay. Ukraine, unfortunately, doesn't seem like they're going to logistically be able to win this. Okay? Unless you can tell me otherwise, on a military campaign mode, how they could actually beat Russia in this fight.
So, again, my question is, so what should we do?
Well, there's no sense giving them more money because that's like giving somebody...
So just let Russia take over Ukraine.
Logistically, when do you finally just admit you lost? I don't know what to say. I'm nothing against Ukraine.
It was supposedly a max 2-week deal, and Russia was in Kyiv, and was taking over the country. What happened?
So you're ignoring the obvious concern here that there's not enough men of military age to fight Russia if Russia just keeps throwing in reinforcements.
And you think that Russia has an unlimited supply?
They have more of an unlimited supply than Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
They're by default a bigger country with a bigger population.
The hundreds of thousands of young men who have fled Russia for fear of being drafted.
They still have quite a few Russian men and women left. Mm-hmm. Like, you think they're going to somehow pull a hat trick and all of a sudden... I'm just saying the ugly reality is that, like, this isn't a war that they can... it looks like logistically they can win, even if they're giving more funding, unless they're going to get like an army of robo-terminators or something to fight the front lines and drones. How are they going to beat Russia? And again, where's the money coming from? It's coming from out of our own pockets. Okay. If you feel so strong about this, by all means, write a check of $50,000, put it to Ukraine, get a statue bronze of you somewhere in Ukraine. I 100% think that's noble. Most people don't have that kind of cash, so how are they? And nobody asked for this, you know. But the point is, if there's an armistice that could be made, right? Is it fair that the West is willing to hear Putin's thoughts on this? And if so, why is it such a big deal that a guy like Tucker Carlson went to the West? You know, those are the questions to ask. Now, I'm not asking. I'm not saying
you sound just like Tucker Carlson. The reason Tucker Carlson is suspect is, again, because he is pro-Putin. And we saw that when he had his show. And again, there were snippets of what he said about Russia played in Russia. So I have no problem with Tucker Carlson getting an interview with anybody he likes, including Putin. You know, again, we'll hear from Putin out of his mouth. I have no problem with that.
Okay,
but there is no mainstream media who said that Tucker Carlson was treasonous.
The overall insinuation.
Insinuation. Oh,
that's what I said.
No, that's not what you said. You said the mainstream media said that Tucker Carlson should be up for treason, should not be allowed back into the country, and the mainstream media did not say that. Okay. CNN did not say that. ABC did not say that.
But
AP did not.
But then we'll take to the other extreme. They supported Tucker Carlson and his questions.
When you say supported,
they were valid questions that he asked.
60 Minutes goes and interviews Saddam Hussein. What did they
approved Tucker Carlson's queries to Vladimir Putin?
With someone sits down and interviews anybody, any leader, country leader, right? The rest of the media or reporters don't sit back and approve or disapprove. What? I don't understand. The premise doesn't compute with me. I apologize.
I'm afraid you may have to. Okay, this is the closest we have to hearing what a guy like Putin had to say about it.
I have no problem with the interview.
You didn't listen to the actual interview? I'm surprised. Like this was like big. Why wouldn't you want to listen to that interview?
Well, it's the same reason I don't listen to Trump interviews on Hannity.
So you don't believe in the teachings of Sun Tzu, where one of the best strategies is to know the workings of one's enemy.
An ex-KGB agent.
Well, you still have to hear it,
who assassinates his enemies or jails them.
Okay, check it out. CNN reporting on Tucker's interview pretty much sums up the reaction across the board of the U.S. mainstream media. Okay, now granted, that's an opinion, but...
This is an opinion, not...
The headline read by CNN, Tucker Carlson is in Russia to interview Putin. He's already doing the bidding of the Kremlin. That doesn't sound like real journalism. That sounds like an op-ed piece. Okay, CNN should be ashamed for doing an op-ed piece like that and assuming that is representing everybody in the staff of CNN.
CNN should be ashamed of doing an op-ed piece?
If that op-ed piece...
Journal does an op-ed piece every day.
If that op-ed piece makes it look like the CNN and the liberal media...
op-ed piece.
So the rest of the staff at CNN is totally not agreeing with that idea. They're not agreeing with the idea that Tucker Carlson is doing the bidding of the Kremlin by sort of allowing Putin to have a mouthpiece back here in the States and maybe allow a lot of the individuals that are listening to that interview at least see Putin's point of view, and that's bad. We can never allow people to accept Putin's point of view.
I never said that.
Okay, so then I guess you agree with the fact that it's okay that Tucker Carlson went to the Kremlin.
I told you that from Jump Street. I have no problem with Tucker Carlson.
But CNN should be more concerned that this kind of misleading article that they posted is going to make them look like they didn't like the idea that Tucker Carlson went to the Kremlin. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, so it's a touchy feel. My feeling is that CNN doesn't like Tucker Carlson.
That's what it just the very headline makes it look like they don't like Tucker Carlson.
Oh, they may not like Tucker Carlson. I don't blame them for that.
Well, wait a minute. That doesn't sound. That sounds kind of biased. If he's just giving an interview, I don't see.
No, don't like Tucker Carlson. I didn't say anything about the interview because Tucker Carlson has raked CNN over the coals in his.
Yeah, so
in
what?
Many years
if he
Fox
has no
News. So
if he has no power in his words, then who cares, right? Like it's just like it's water. Like it doesn't mean anything. It's coming from Tucker Carlson. He's a nobody. Okay. So who cares what he has to say? That's how CNN should look at it. If there's such an established and mighty entity there that promotes real journalism, okay, which is why I'm surprised they would have had an article with that title in, because it makes people like me assume that CNN does not actually favor Tucker Carlson and Putin getting together, because Tucker Carlson's kind of like a puppet. That's what they're making me want to believe if I read that article, and it was promoted by CNN. So seems a little biased on CNN's part and unwise. If in reality most of the media is actually totally okay with Tucker Carlson going over there, and nobody's really butthurt, no journalists are upset or jealous that it wasn't them, but it was Tucker Carlson that went there, so they're not trying to lambast him for that. They're not trying to lambast him for the fact that, it was Putin, and maybe Putin might be shown with some points that people might agree with, maybe not all of them, but at least something, which is always, when you're trying to negotiate, when we're trying to have a conversation, we're trying to see each other's points. I don't see how that's any different. And then let the public decide whether Putin sounds totally insane or not. I think that's fair.
Those who may be unfamiliar, Tucker Carlson, right? That's like Putin having an interview on one of the stations in Russia.
Yeah,
who the state owns and operates, right?
Okay.
He's going to get nice softball questions. Then that's fine. But for those who don't know, you need to know that.
But then why didn't you watch the interview?
Run TV. Why not watch the interview?
Yeah, if that's true, why not watch the interview so then you can say, well, look at the questions Tucker Carlson asked. These were softball questions. But you don't even know.
I told you. I didn't listen to the interview.
Okay, so then it's kind of unfair to say that he was throwing softball questions when you didn't even watch the interview.
I gave an example that he is on his show, and
that was months ago. What about now in this interview?
Pro Putin. I don't know what he's asking his interview.
Fair enough. That's all we need to know. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, what's the point of this conversation?
The point of the conversation was you said mainstream media called Tucker Carlson treasonous, and they did not.
A puppet.
Period. Puppet. Yeah, I could go with that.
For Putin.
But again, what is that? That was an op-ed. Do you know what an op-ed is? Of course, it's an opinion piece.
Okay, it's an opinion piece. Well, it shouldn't be one of their.
It's not the mainstream media.
Well, I'd love to see it. If you can find me a headline where CNN is actually showing the other side of the spectrum, where they're supporting Tucker Carlson.
Supporting? You keep bringing up that support. What support?
You're right. I don't think you're going to find an article like that from something like CNN. What about MSNBC? You think they gave some shout outs to Tucker Carlson for going out there and asking them questions?
Shout outs?
Yeah.
Where do you ever hear a shout out from one?
You're right. I've never heard anybody from like MSNBC, CNN, any of these.
Fox News.
Well, Fox News would probably be. Actually, Fox News is kind of upset at Tucker Carlson as well.
No, why?
Why? Because what happened months ago, remember?
What happened months ago?
Tucker Carlson said some things that the founder of, what the hell's his name? Rupert Murdoch didn't seem to like, got butthurt about it.
Oh.
And then conveniently fired him over the fact that Dominion was basically almost emotionally blackmailing like Fox News. And it just seemed like a big giant clusterfuck of problems, but whatever. I think we've had more than enough entertainment on this absurd matter. Folks, if you were watching tonight's or listening to tonight's episode, take a look at that interview with Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin.
It's 2 hours.
It's 2 hours. Try to find the highlight reel if you can, but make sure it's them and not deepfake.
Hi folks, hit a like and don't forget to subscribe, and share the episodes if you like them.